Welcome to What's Your Next Move, the podcast for peak performers who are making things happen but are running into roadblocks that prevent them from getting what they want. Whether you work for someone else, you're an entrepreneur, thinking about starting your own business, or at a point in your life where you just can't make the move from where you are to where you want to go, you're in the right place. This podcast is all about answering one question: what's your next move? And helping you harness your power so your next move is the one that changes your life. I'm your host and resident provocateur, Arlene Battisil, and I want to know, what's your next move? Hi there, I'm Arlene Battisil, your host and resident provocateur, and I have a very special guest today, someone near and dear to my heart. It is Sheri Angeles. She is a highly and nationally recognized professional photographer working on celebrity photo shoots, fashion photo shoots, and she has built an entire book of business around her wedding photography business, where she started as a photographer doing the weddings herself and then actually grew it into an agency where she is employing several professional photographers and support staff who are now out doing the wedding shoots for her while she's busy doing her other work. She's had an extraordinary run of it for someone who is so young, starting from her early 20s when she moved to Los Angeles. And just by way of complete transparency, Sheri happens to be my niece. And I'm sure, the listeners will think, oh, there's some nepotism going on here. And, it's like, oh, what? You're just going to have your family members on your show? Well, yes, in fact, I am, because Sheri is an extraordinary example of how an entrepreneur comes into the world and faces huge challenges and what she does with it and where she ends up as a result. So Sheri, I want to thank you so much for joining me. I know that you've got so much going on right now with all of the national agency work, with the whole pizza story, which I'll let you get into. But thank you so much for joining me. I know how busy you are, so I feel honored that you're here, even if you are related to me.
Thank you for having me. What a great introduction.
Was that a fair introduction?
Oh,
Did that accurately describe who you are?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. Anything else you want to add in there, or did I capture
No,
it?
I think you nailed it right on the head. Thank you.
Beautiful. All right. So why don't you go ahead and share with the audience, what are you doing right now? What is your work made up of?
Yeah, so what my work is made up of, like my aunt was saying, I am a wedding photographer. That is how I started. It was just me, myself, and I. No one was there to help me. And over the years, I just brought on a huge team of between 12 to 15 people who work for me. And I think a lot of that was moving across country a few times. And so started in Michigan, where I'm from, had a great team there, moved to California, built a team there. My husband is from Washington State, so I had built a team there from all the weddings I've done. And then now in Nashville, Tennessee, so I've built a team here. And then I have just sporadic team members throughout the country where I've shot and traveled and overseas and all that fun stuff. And so I'm at a point now, this is 14 years into my business, and I'm at a point where fashion is really starting to take over. So my team now is shooting my weddings for me. I'm able to focus on my fashion and working with, like my aunt said, the celebrity clientele, doing things for their social media, magazines, ads, different brands, kind of taking a little turn that way, but still loving weddings. And that's basically it. Like, I know she had mentioned as well that I am an author. I wrote a book for engaged brides and couples. And so that has been really, really awesome. I have had a great response from that. And so I'm just over here, building my credibility. So basically that's kind of where I'm at. I'm loving the process. I'm loving the journey that I've been on. And I know we'll get into this, but it has definitely been a journey and a lot of things I can say that has led me up to this point. But it is a great place to be in after you see all the hard work that you've put in finally paying off.
Mm-hmm. And it's paid off so well for you, Sheri.
Yes.
So I want to go back in time about 14 years because there was an event that I was witness to that was deeply painful for all of us in the family and most of all for you. And that was you had moved out to Los Angeles really early. You were probably 20 at the time. And you had come out there with all your hopes and dreams and aspirations of becoming a red carpet photographer. And you had gotten yourself connected with people very, very quickly. And you met who is now your husband, Adrian. And you started spending all of your time with Adrian. And then what happened? Because it was from that point forward that, shall we say, it turned into a shit show for you. So why don't you walk us through what happened? You talk about when you got to LA, what you thought you were going to do. Then you met Adrian and what happened after that.
Yes, what a funny story that is. So basically, backtracking all those years, since I've been young, like coming out to visit you, like I knew from a young age that California, that is where I'm going to be. That is where I'm going to live. That's my place. Like I love California. And so I was so excited. I finally got to California. I was able to graduate, college early, like get myself out there. So excited. And the first month I was out there was great. Like my aunt said, I was working on the red carpet and met some amazing people. And then a man came into my life and we basically, when you move to California, it feels like vacation. Not going to lie. You feel like you're on vacation all the time. You got the trees, the beach, the palm trees, the weather's incredible. So you just feel like you're just living. Well, you don't just live, like you have to survive in California. And so basically we were just living off all our savings, having a grand old time. I was going through jobs left and right. And before you know it, all my money's gone. And so I was out there probably for, I would say probably 2 years, before just everything went to, kaput, I guess you could say. And what had happened, all my money was gone. It was like a week or two probably that I was really struggling to find a job, fighting to not have to go back home to Michigan. It was one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make. Like literally, like my heart was like, I have never felt the pain in my heart. You feel like you know the pain when you break up with someone. The pain that I felt was worse than a breakup because I love California. Like that must have been my true love or something. It was so bad. Like, and I have never cried so much than at that time. Like that pain I felt was unbearable. And so what had happened was I had to make the hard decision to go back home because of the choices that I made of just feeling like I was living and went through all my money and I just could not get myself back on my feet. And, that's not an uncommon thing being in California. Like people go through all their money super fast and always have to head home. So it's not uncommon. And I was in that percentage of I don't even know what kind of percentage that would be, like 90% maybe, of having to go back home to where they started because you ran out of money. And so if you're going to go to California, I encourage you to save up lots of money to survive on if you can't find a job right away. So backtracking. So I finally had to make that hard decision to go back home. I remember the day, like I was at my aunt's house and crying. And she had told me that, if you want to make photography your career, do not give yourself a plan A or plan B, stick with plan A. And that changed my life. Like I left California so determined to pay off all my debts to my family members who helped me transition back to Michigan. I worked my butt off building up a clientele. Like when I'd have to fly back and forth, I saved up so much money. Like I just got my head on straight. And when my husband and I got married, I moved back to California and I went in like a wild horse and made right connections, built like great team, just went in full force to make sure that I was only doing photography, and it has paid off tremendously based on the fact of the one line my aunt said of if you want to do photography full time. Like, do not give yourself a plan B. You do anything to make plan A happen. And that's what I've done to get myself to this point. Like, I will not work for anyone else but myself. And I will only pursue the things that fuel my fire and my spirit and my passions. And that's the only thing you'll ever find me doing. And so here I am. It's got me to this point.
It's so beautiful. And it's so incredible to hear you talking about this, Sheri, because I was there with you in the moment that you had to leave. And I remember that conversation. We were outside my house and you were in the car and you were crying. And I remember you had graduated with a degree in, it was early childhood education, I think it was. And you'd spent a lot of time working in daycare, businesses and other things that were all about early childhood care of children. And you had always loved children, but you were doing this job and it wasn't your passion. You did it really well. The kids responded incredibly to you. The parents loved you. Everybody loved you, but that was not your passion. And the photography was your real passion. And I remember saying to you in the car, I said, if you decide you're going to do the photography, you have to do it with conviction. It cannot be that you can't have one toe in the water and still have the rest of your body in another pool. You know what I mean? You have to commit 100%. And once you know that you have complete conviction about it, you will let go of the security of that, the places that you were working where you were quite comfortable. This is when you were back in Michigan. You were really comfortable, and yet the burning fire inside you was to do your photography and you wanting to be back in California, and that you had to let go of the safety and security of that paycheck and that job in order to pursue this thing. And that's the hardest thing for people to do. Now, let's walk back in time a little bit. When you first went to California, you had this idea that you were going to be a photographer, and you came in with a vengeance, and then you met Adrian. Now, how is it that you, if I can be so blunt, I say it with love, of course.
Okay.
How is it that by virtue of you being with Adrian, your whole photography work up to that point got derailed? Because once the two of you met, you basically stopped doing your photography. And as you said, you were living the life because you had this wonderful relationship, you're in love, and it seemed like the photography was just sort of falling into a place of being a hobby. Talk to me about that time.
Yes. I mean, you basically nailed it again on the head. And I think what had happened was I knew the first time I went to California, photography was something that I was going to do. I don't necessarily think at that time when I was 20, that is what I knew I was going to do forever. You know what I mean? So I think when I moved out there, had all these other jobs, I leaned on what was comfortable, and that was that childhood degree. I knew that I could handle kids. I knew I could get a job easy working with kids. I mean, and that was evident. I mean, I was a nanny multiple times, worked at schools, like the whole 9 yards there. And so I think I just wasn't as focused as where I'm at the second time I came to California, or even now when I met Adrian. And, when someone comes into your life, you get in this honeymoon stage, and we definitely were in that honeymoon stage for the time that I was in California the first time. And I think, that was an exciting time in my life. I don't regret it. I don't actually regret any of the hardships that I went through, even having, to come back to California because of the choices I made. It has honestly fueled my fire to work even harder. And I think that's what I needed. Going back home, getting my head on straight to come back with more power than ever to make my dreams happen. And I think when I was home, that is when I really figured out, okay, I'm doing this full time. I can make it happen. And I had to prove it to my mom, especially. She's the realist. And me and you are very similar of we have a dream or an idea, you better believe it's about to happen. And so I had to make that happen because I remember I had quit my teaching job. I was working at KinderCare. I quit my teaching job, and I just felt like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, and I told you multiple times, I'm like, the kids are just annoying me, but they're just being themselves. And I'm like, that's how I kind of like knew I'm not supposed to do this. And I had quit my job. I think it was in November of 2011, and I was moving in December, and my mom was like, if you're going to quit, like, you better have some money saved. And so I had just enough to get through December, and we were getting married the following March, and I had moved out to California that January. And I was like, all right, God, like, if I'm supposed to do this, like, you better provide. And I remember that year was the year I had the most weddings I've ever had, made the most money I've ever made, and like, we were fully taken care of. And I didn't have any clientele. I didn't know what I was going to do for weddings or work, and everything was just aligned and taken care of. And that was just a proven thing to me, like, okay, like, I'm supposed to be doing this. And ever since that year, 2012, like, things have just skyrocketed. The people that I've met, the places I've seen, and been able to go, it's just been incredible. And I would never have imagined that for myself if I didn't, come back to Michigan and get my head on and say, okay, like, this is it. Like, I'm making this happen. And it's been incredible. Like, the stories I could tell.
And you will.
Seriously, yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the moment at which you had to go back to Michigan. Now, here's a moment where Adrian was staying in California and you were back to Michigan. Did you have a feeling in that moment that the relationship you had with him was over because you had to leave?
That's a funny question. Because when I first moved back, we were still together. And then Adrian was working through some things, and we had parted ways for a good 3 months. It was probably easier for me to get through it. I wasn't really thinking much about it because during these 3 months, like, we did not talk at all. Like, I think once or twice during the full 3 months of being separated. And I think it was better for me because I was distracted with friends. He had like his roommate and like a couple people, so it was way harder for him to deal with it. And so I think just during that time of being separated, him working on himself, me working on myself, we had said when I had come back to visit him in May, we'll see where we're at. And if we feel like we're supposed to be together, and we'll get back together. And honestly, during that time, was not sure. I was okay. We weren't going to get back together because I made that peace and said, okay, like, you do your thing. And sure enough, come May, when I went back to California to visit him, we talked about the transitions that have been taking place in our life, the different places that we have grown. And we felt that we were supposed to be back together, and we got back together, and here we are today.
That's so magnificent. Now, at the point that you wrapped up everything in Michigan, I remember a particular day where you called me and you said you were done. And you'd gone back to work in childcare, and you called me and you said, Aunt Arlene, I'm done. I'm going to do my photography. It's all I care about. And I'm coming back to California. And there was something in the sound of your voice that I knew instantly that you were going to take the world by storm. And that's exactly what you did. It was the most magnificent thing, because I knew that this was likely going to happen, but you just never know when somebody leaves and they get comfortable again. You never know whether or not they take themselves out of that comfort level to do what it is that they feel most passionate about. And so you came back to California and took Los Angeles by storm. And I couldn't believe it. As every week I would talk to you and you would be telling me about yet another celebrity that you had been shooting and yet another fashion shoot. And the photography work was extraordinary. It was so beautiful. And the weddings just kept coming and coming. And it seemed that the moment that you declared to yourself in the world that you were serious about what you were going to do with your photography, that's when the floodgates opened. Did you find that to be the case?
Oh, 100%. I had a vengeance and it was going to be mine.
I had a vengeance and it was going to be mine.
Yeah, basically. And I made it mine.
Yeah, you did. You absolutely did. So talk to me about when you got back. What kind of things were you doing?
Man, when I got back, I was just connecting with anyone I could get my hands on, basically. So I was going back, tracking to people that I connected with when I was in California the first time. I was on Facebook before Instagram was like a huge thing. I was on Facebook looking up influential people that I could email or message and just say, hey, this is who I am. I'm coming back to California. If you need photography, let me be a part of your project, your event, XYZ. And that's kind of how I got my foot in the door and was able to not only leave the red carpet world, which was the first time around. I ended up being in-house photographers for Grammy parties, Oscar parties, you name it. I was in the parties, mingling with celebrities, meeting people, getting contacts for huge magazines and record companies, and like the contact list that I have that I never imagined I would have, like, makes me laugh. I'm like, here I am living in North Hollywood by all these, warehouses, going to all these Grammy parties. And I said, who am I? Like, what is happening to myself? Like, I just left because I would be at these crazy parties meeting the most amazing people. And here I am, like, working my butt off, and no one has any idea, like, how I even got here. Like, it just makes me laugh, and
well, that is so magnificent. And I remember that time where it was so remarkable to see what you were doing on social media. And this was actually even before Instagram existed, where you would tell me about all of these people that you were meeting and shooting. And I said, Sheri, how did you connect with all these people? And she says, oh, I'm all over Facebook. I just reach out to people. I don't even care. What are they going to do? Say no? Okay, fine. And then I'll ask again.
Exactly.
Because you were like a pit bull with these people. You were not taking no for an answer. And the other thing that I remember is how much free work you were doing, and you were welcoming it, because I know that you were posting things on Craigslist. You were looking for anybody who needed headshots, who needed live action shots, whatever you could be shooting, because that was all part of this huge portfolio that you were building, just because that was how you were getting your chops really good as a photographer, because you were already really exceptional, but you wanted to take it to another level. And then when you started I found out about what you were doing because I would see all the pictures on Facebook and I would message you and I'm like, what the hell, Sheri, what are you doing? How did you get in there? You were literally everywhere. And every week you would be telling me, oh yeah, I shot this red carpet thing, or I was at this party and Paris Hilton was there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What happened to you?
That is right.
Oh my God. So now all of this goes on, and now you're just going about your business. And we fast forward in time to one of my favorite stories, and that has to do with the pizza. And you happened to meet a young woman who had been on that talent show, The Voice. Now walk me through all of what happened with that.
Yes. So one of my best friends, Kensington Moore, she was on The Voice. We met, hit it off as friends, almost together every day. If we're both in the same state, she travels tremendously, just like I do. And we both love pizza. I think that's what brought us together, is the love of pizza. And it was about maybe 2 years ago now, a year ago. I can't really remember. She didn't have a boyfriend. She's still single, beautiful if anyone's looking. And right,
I'll put the word out for Kenzie.
Excuse me. And so I was like, Kenzie, we need to do a pizza shoot. And I was like, you need to date pizza. And she's like, oh my gosh, I love it. And so we created this whole pizza shoot based off of her dating pizza. And so she actually went around to all.
Wait a minute, Sheri, what do you mean by her dating pizza?
Yes. So the whole gist of it was just to make a really funny pizza shoot, but have it really well done. And so we had her in this beautiful red dress, like in on a hill with a single tree, tall grass, like just beautifully done, but hilarious. And we did that perfectly. And so
where did the pizza fit into the photo?
Oh, so we went and bought a pizza from Papa John's, and she actually went around to all the pizza places in her city where she lives and collected all these boxes. So when I got to her house the day for the pizza shoot, she had like 30 boxes of just empty pizza boxes. And I was like, oh my gosh. And the thing with me and her, like, if we have an idea, we're going to run with it and we're going to take it to the next level and make it even more funny than what we even imagined it to be the first time around. And that's how this whole pizza thing even started. We both love pizza. She's not in a relationship, so date pizza. And so we wanted to have this done by Valentine's Day. And sure enough, we got the shootout by Valentine's Day and it went viral. It exploded and it just went crazy. It got on BuzzFeed, Papa John.
And what was the caption? Because I remember seeing, I actually saw it on BuzzFeed when it came through that day, but I don't remember the caption, but it was something really funny about this, 20-something young woman who was dating a pizza.
Yes, it was, at the time she was only 19 and it was 19-year-old claims she's in a relationship with pizza. It was so funny. And it was literally the best response we got, like just from people just dying laughing because of how funny it was. But again, so well done.
And the photography was unbelievable. Yes. It looked like Vogue magazine caliber photography. And there she is looking lovingly at this pizza. That was just really crazy. Yes. Okay. So now fast forward in time, what happened as a result of that photo shoot and the BuzzFeed article and the whole thing went viral? Now, what happened?
Yeah, it's crazy. And so basically Papa John's was the one who really like dove in head first and was like, we love what you're doing. They found us on Instagram, emailed us. We had meetings with, the head social media people. And the crazy thing is they typically don't work with outside ideas, outside people, but here we are. They loved what we did because it was different and it was original. And we got them at a time where they were changing their whole social media aspect.
Right. I remember that.
And so their whole thing of where the direction that they were going, we had done and they loved it. And so over the course of the year, we did a bunch of different shoots for them for Valentine's Day when, what was that show? The one that Jon Snow, that show, I forgot what it's called right now. Winter is Coming, something, whatever that show is. They did, Game of Thrones. That's what it was. We did a shoot basically for that. And so that's kind of how Kenzie became known as the Pizza Queen. And so they posted photos around that time. And then this last year, we worked on this huge, huge shoot where the Pizza Queen met her Pizza King. And again, it got on BuzzFeed. So funny. Our friend Tim Chung, super handsome, tall Korean man, played the king. And then we have beautiful Kenzie, blonde hair, tall, beautiful girl as the Pizza Queen. They looked incredible together. We did this whole story of them finding love. We took Tim out to the sand dunes. Kenzie, we were at the ocean when we were in Florida. I mean, like, this was a huge production throughout a year in the making of doing how the Pizza Queen and Pizza King met. And it was another great response. And just here we are. It's just one of those things, you never know what can happen with an idea. And that was a prime example. Like when we did the first shoot, we literally did it to make ourselves laugh and it was a joke. And then all of this happened.
Right.
It came from one idea of just being funny.
Mm-hmm. And then you had, I remember not too long ago, the two of you were going off to New York because there were other pizza companies, big national pizza chains that were interested in you guys.
Yes. Nothing really came of that. Right now, it's basically just Papa John's. But who knows? If you're listening, other pizza chains, like we're open to collaboration there.
It'll be Kenzie's sister takes up with the hoagie or something like that.
Right. Oh, that's so funny.
Wow. Now, let me ask, you had been doing all of your wedding photography and decided that you needed to shift gears away from that into something else because your real passion was doing the celebrity and the fashion work. And there was a period of time where you were feeling frustrated about kind of feeling stuck in the whole wedding photography mode. And that's how everyone was now going to really be seeing you. And that was not what you wanted to be doing. And what were you struggling with around that time about that you were in one thing, but were struggling to move over into something else?
I remember actually this conversation at Christmas time. And I think we were all sitting around and we were talking about that. And I was just saying, like, I want to do my fashion photography. That is what I love. And even when I came to California the first time, that's kind of how I even started. Like, you even helped me put ads out to shoot some people. We photographed people. You made my first fashion book for me, the whole thing. And, I think what had happened was, well, even how I got started in weddings. My first ever gig was a wedding. And I think I was just thrown into it, but all along fashion and like doing portraits one-on-one with people was more my thing that I actually like loved. And don't get me wrong, I love weddings. It's been great. I love all my couples. But fashion has always been in the back of my mind. And what's great with my weddings now, like I bring my fashion into my weddings. And so my couples not only get that candid photojournalistic vibe, but they're also going to feel like they stepped out of a wedding magazine. And so that's been really fun for me over the years with my weddings, just being able to have that little in with my fashion, but always wanting to do fashion photography editorials, and just do that. And so at Christmas time, I think it was 2 years ago, we were talking about this and I was saying like, I want to do fashion and work with celebrities. Like I've always known that is what my calling was. And it's just a matter of time until it's supposed to happen. And this is where this whole journey comes into play where, you can have these big goals, but it's just not your time yet. And a lot of times people will compare themselves to others and compare their journey to others. And the thing that I realized, because I've done the same thing. Like I'm not going to deny that. But I came to realize like my journey is going to be different from theirs. Just because they're there right now and they started photography 2 years ago and they're already doing what I want to do, I didn't see their journey before that. I didn't know if they were already building connections before that. Like everyone's journey is different. And it wasn't my time yet. Like, yes, I did the celebrity red carpet, celebrity parties, but it wasn't my time yet to do the portraits and the one-on-ones with them because my style and the way I shot wasn't ready yet. And now where I'm at in my career and my style, I finally figured myself out a couple years ago of what I love and my vision and my eye. And now I'm attracting the right clientele. Now I'm shooting the people that I've been working so hard to shoot with this one-on-one time where I get to have personal conversations with people, build a friendship. Like the numbers I have on my phone, like we were talking about like before, what am I doing at these parties? The contacts, like the numbers I have in my phone of people that I'm now friends with who are in the spotlight, whether they're celebrities or nowadays YouTubers or influencers, if you want to call them, like are bizarre. And it just blows me again out of the water that I've gotten to this point of actually being able to pursue what I want to pursue, shoot the people that I want to shoot and make a career out of it. And it's a possibility and it's possible for anyone. It's just, you have to work hard to get to this point. It's just not going to fall into your lap. And like you were saying before, I was doing free stuff. Like a lot of photographers will say, oh, why are you devaluing yourself? And yada, yada, yada. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I know what I'm doing. Like everything that I do has a purpose behind it.
Right.
So every contact that I make, whether I'm shooting for free or not, is because there's a bigger purpose behind it. Whatever I do, I see the end goal in mind, why I'm doing what I'm doing if it's for free.
Right. Absolutely.
Literally everything that I've done for free has paid off because they've either connected me, to other friends who've actually paid me, whether I've shot more free people because of it, because it's building my exposure. Like there's just some things you have to do to get to what you want. And if you're going to do what I want to do with the celebrities and big influential people, like sometimes you just have to sacrifice. And, if you're lucky enough where you never have to shoot for free, that's amazing. But for me, shooting for free has probably been one of the best things I could have ever done for myself and my career. And everyone's different. Some of you who, if you're a photographer listening to this, may or may not agree, and that's okay. This is my journey and it's been incredible and I wouldn't change anything for the world. So here I am.
That's incredible, Sheri. I mean, there's so many takeaways from what you have just said, because one of the things that most people don't want to do, or they resist doing it, is working for free. And it is this thing around thinking that you're devaluing yourself. But what's really remarkable about what you've been saying is, number one, you recognize that it wasn't your time yet. And also that relative to everybody else around you, it's easy to look at someone else's success and be envious of it. But as you say, you never know what their journey was beforehand. And recognizing for yourself it was not your time did not dissuade you. In fact, it motivated you, because you knew that you needed to do certain things with respect to your skill level to get you to a point where you were going to be moving in circles in a way that people sought you out, as opposed to in the beginning of your career where you just sort of ended up in these places by happenstance. And also in understanding that when you do something for free, you're building a relationship, you're building trust with that person, and you're also creating work product that they can see and evaluate, and also for you to use as a calling card for other people. And I completely agree with you around the idea of working for free for people, because the reality is you will only get once you give. And you getting has paid off 1,000 times over from what you have done by shooting people for free, because those people that you have worked for free, and it's not even working for free, you're creating a relationship, and you go out and you have a great photo shoot. They remember it. They refer everyone they know to you, and then everyone they know gets referred to you. And that's how you build a book of business, because you've never had to go out and advertise yourself in a way where people say, oh, come to my website, and I'm a photographer and this is my portfolio, and you just sit there waiting for something to happen. You have actually gone out there from day one. Once you decided for real that this was what you were going to do, you were out there hustling all the time. And most people resist the idea of hustling. But for you, it seems, I don't want to suggest that it's like a game for you, but it's something that, you hustling is all about the opportunity. It's all about the possibility. It's all about getting people to say yes. And I know from experience with you as someone I'm related to, that you're like a dog with an old leather shoe. You'll come ask me something and I'll say no, and you'll ask me again and I'll say no, and then you'll ask me in a different way and I'll say no, and then you'll ask me again. I'm like, damn, Sheri, stop already. Okay, fine. You're like, okay, good. You could have just said yes the first time, Marty.
Yes. I was like, yeah, I just go out and make sure people want to play. If they say no, we'll find another avenue. But I'm like... I was just laughing. Everything you just said is so good.
It's so true about you, because that's how I've observed you, but that's who I've known you to be ever since you were a little kid.
Oh yeah. It's a game and it's fun. And I love it, because if like one person will say no, I'll go to one of their friends, or I'll go to someone who's higher than them and they'll hire me, or they'll let me shoot them. And then they all of a sudden come knocking. I'm like, well, why didn't you just let me shoot you the first time? But honestly, yes, shooting. I want to go back to shooting for free. And I highly encourage, if you're a photographer listening to it, contact someone that you want to shoot. Show them your portfolio. Like shoot people that you want to attract. That's another thing. Whether they're a celebrity or not, shoot people that you want to attract, because they will come. And I'm at a point now, which all the shooting for free, my portfolio has been getting better with the people that I've been shooting. I'm at a point where I'm turning away people. Just 2 days ago, I had like 3 or 4 people email me and contact me on Instagram wanting to test shoot. And I confidently was like, you know what? Sorry, I'm not testing right now. Here are my rates if you still want to shoot. And it feels good to turn people away, because now you've built a reputation for yourself, and you've built, this huge, beautiful brand for yourself of what you do. And you're at this new level right now where if you're going to shoot for free, it's going to be on your terms, no longer just taking people who come to you because you need to be shooting, or you need someone in your book. And that felt so good, just being like, you know what, I can't, here's my prices. And I've had a couple of them, actually want a book. So it's just knowing your worth while also working for free, but you're being strategic about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's such a great point. And I mean, you are a living case study of how you go about building a business, especially a service provider that you are. And yes, you produce a product at the end of it, but you're ultimately providing the service of doing the photography. And one thing I found really remarkable was the way in which you used Instagram to go after people that you wanted to shoot and the kind of response you got. Like, most people think when you reach out to someone, especially someone famous, that, you know, they're not going to listen to you. They've got gatekeepers. You'll never get anywhere near them. And yet I remember you telling me how many times you reached out to all these really famous people on Instagram and they all responded favorably to you. And talk about that a little bit, about just using Instagram as a basis for going out and generating business for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's basically what happened. Just like Facebook. I used, at the time, Facebook was Instagram. And so I did the same thing. You find someone you want to shoot and you just reach out. Like, I have no fear. Like, I will message, email whoever I have to. And I think that's what differentiates. Well, I don't know how to say that word.
Differentiates.
Man, that's a tongue twister.
Differentiates.
I promise I can speak. I'll just say that makes me different. But yeah, I am not afraid to reach out to anyone, make connections with whoever I want to shoot. And it pays off. Like, you just can't be afraid. Like, if they're going to say no, okay, find someone else. Someone will say yes. A lot of times, the amount of messages I have in Instagram that have not been responded to, plenty. But 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10 will message me back and will shoot. And then they bring me their connections. Like,
yeah, they could have 2 million followers now seeing your work.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's how it's even happened too. Like, I've shot people with millions of followers, and I think seeing that, for especially reaching out to bigger celebrities, they want to see that you are somebody and that other people have said yes. And I think that has paid off a lot as well. But it's one of those things. Don't be afraid. Like, go after what you want, message them, reach out to them, email them, find their, contact info and message their PR person. Like, I've done it all. Like, I am not afraid. And I've actually gotten more responses of saying yes, or, let's do this, XYZ. And I just reached out to a brand because I'm going to New York City tomorrow. And they want to bring me on board to do some of their photography stuff just because I was asking to use one of their pieces in their clothing collection. And now they want to bring me on board to shoot more of their clothes and shoot some of their stuff while they're at an event. And I'm just like, what just happened? Like, I literally just asked to use a piece of your clothing and here we are. So it's just incredible. Just reach out to whoever you want to reach out to, and you never know if they will reply. But if you're going to do that, make sure you have good work that they're going to want. Like, you can't just reach out and be like, hey, like, let's get together. Like, why? Like, what's in it for them? Like, thankfully, I have something that people want, and people want photos of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so thankfully, I have something that I can give to people, and I'm confident in my work enough that they will like what I can give them and produce for them. And it's, for me, been able to pay off.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes.
It's really incredible that now things are just falling in your lap as a result of all of the work that you've done of cultivating relationships with people, connecting with people who have big followings, making yourself as visible as possible wherever you can. And I think in the few minutes that we have remaining, I think I'm going to pose a challenging question to you, because I have 1,000 more questions for you, and I will probably need to have you come back because there are so many more things I want to talk with you about your book and about what your plans are for the future, what your next move is, both literally and figuratively. But there is one thing I want to ask you before we wrap up this particular visit, and that is, you obviously are very outgoing. You have no problem selling yourself. You have no problem reaching out to anybody. You don't think twice about reaching out to anyone. But let's say a person who's listening is an introvert who is saying, yeah, well, that's great. You're the kind of person who can just reach out and talk to anybody. But I have ideas. I have a product. I have a business, and I'm struggling because I'm an introvert. I can't put myself out there like that. Do you have any thoughts and advice for people that might help them to put in perspective the reality of what it means to reach out to people in the way where these are not big, bad, scary people out there? It's just, the relationships that we have with people that all start with just a conversation.
Absolutely. So in my business mentorships, I speak with people, not just photographers, about this. And a lot of them, believe it or not, are introverts. And the thing I say to them, and I do it from my perspective, and I know everyone's wired differently, but if you're not willing to put yourself out there, like, it's not going to happen. A lot of introverts that I've spoken with who one-on-one, they're just a fear is something that scares them. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you're not willing to face that fear, you're going to be stuck in the same place. And isn't that the definition of insanity? Basically doing the same thing over and over and
for sure
not getting this, you're getting the same response. And that's basically what's happening. And so as an introvert, I would just encourage you to break that mold here and reach out to who you want to reach out to and just make it happen, or things will not happen. You know what I mean? Or if you have a business partner, maybe have the business partner do it. You know what I mean? But a lot of times people, if you're reaching out to them, want to see the face of the business or the face of the photographer and have that more personal connection. So I highly encourage just to be bold in that. If that's the one thing you're going to do in your business, be bold with the people that you reach out to, because I promise it will pay off. And it's just one of those things of breaking that wall down of the fear of rejection, if that is something that you face, and just overcoming that and just saying, okay, like, if I want to get XYZ, these are the steps that I have to take. And a lot of times it's that first initial step that's the most scary. But once you do it once, it will become easier from here on out. It's just making that first decision to say, okay, like, even though I'm an introvert, like, I have to get out of my shell and just do this. And if you get a great response, more than likely you will get no's. That is okay. Look for that yes. It will fuel your fire. And your little introvert self will become that little extrovert, that little portion. Your 5% of yourself will be an extrovert when it comes to reaching out to people and talking to people. And if you're going to be a business owner, unfortunately, that comes with the territory. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to be an extrovert. Part of yourself has to be that extrovert, because people, again, want to see the face of the business. They want that human connection, and they want to know who they're doing business with. And if you're an extrovert entrepreneur, just be bold, put your face out there, connect with people, and it will pay off tremendously. Like, I promise you, it will.
Oh my God, what magnificent advice, Sheri. I'm just sitting here smiling, just beaming from ear to ear, because I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
I have tears in my eyes because I'm just listening to you, and I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, thank you.
That's so wonderful. Well, normally I ask our guests if they have any last minute words, but I think that you have just given them. And as is the case with anything that you're doing in business, the first sale is always the toughest sale. And it's the same thing. It's the first contact that is the toughest contact. And you just articulated it in the most beautiful, loving way. And I thank you so much for that. Now, Sheri, before we wrap up, can you tell our listeners where they can contact you if they were interested in business mentoring or in photography, of course, or if they'd like to get a copy of your book, which unfortunately we didn't have time to talk about, but why don't you just let our listeners know where they can reach you?
Yeah, so the easiest way you can contact me would be through either my fashion Instagram, which is just my name, at Sheri Angeles, SHERI Angeles, like Los Angeles. And then my email is Sheri@SheriAngeles.com. And that is the same for my website, SheriAngeles.com. And you can email me there as well.
And then what is the name of your book?
My book is for wedding photography. It is Capturing Defining Moments, the Importance of Great Wedding Photography.
Beautiful. And is that available on Amazon?
Yes, Amazon, my website, and I recently saw it on Barnes & Noble, so it should be there as well if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, beautiful. Well, Sheri, this has been so delightful. It's gone by so quick, and I regret that the clock has moved as quickly as it has today, but I would love to have you come back and we can talk about what the future holds for you. And again, I thank you so much, and good luck in New York tomorrow. And I'm anxious to hear about everything when you get back.
Perfect. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode and you've been able to take away from Sheri's experience of just how you go out there and make things happen for your business. And so I always wrap up every episode asking you, given where you're at in your life right now, what's your next move? I'm Arlene Battisil. Thanks so much for listening. I'll be back with another episode. Welcome to What's Your Next Move, the podcast for peak performers who are making things happen, but are running into roadblocks that prevent them from getting what they want. Whether you work for someone else, you're an entrepreneur, thinking about starting your own business, or at a point in your life where you just can't make the move from where you are to where you want to go, you're in the right place. This podcast is all about answering one question: what's your next move? And helping you harness your power so your next move is the one that changes your life. I'm your host and resident provocateur, Arlene Battisil, and I want to know, what's your next move?